Yeah, Bo. You have to wait for them to on the this and that and stuff. Which you wrote IQTT, right? Yeah, yeah. So you're gonna have to wait for that one. Okay, right, guys. So let's have one conversation quickly here. All right, it's not many slides. We'll get through this fairly quickly. All right, as you guys know, this is your last unit in your IQTT, in other words, your maths basically. And here's financial calculations. All right, very simple, straightforward unit. All right, in this learning unit, we discuss how to perform a variety of different financial calculations. Okay, I think they make it sound a bit deeper than it is there. So here, first thing, you are finding out or establishing how to add VAT to an amount. So in other words, the exclusive, VAT inclusive amount. Okay. This is something that you guys should already be comfortable with from what we did in Unit 3 in your accounting, okay? So that shouldn't be an issue for you at all, okay? In fact, I think the calculations, the methods we used in accounting will actually make this easier for you than the way they do it actually here, okay? Then calculating commission. So commission, we know this is something that somebody earns based on having made a sale, okay? So for instance, I could say that, okay, look, I'm willing to pay you 20% commission on whatever you sell. So how then we would calculate your commission is we say, whatever the sales amount is, so if he sells 10,000, we then say 20% of 10,000 will then be his commission, and that's how you then calculate it, all right? I don't think I need to actually delve into speaking on commission, all right? I think it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, usually it's for sales representatives, agents, and brokers, okay? That's typically where you would find yourself stumbling upon commission. All right, and then here they just give us an example. So here, for instance, if there were sales of 95,000 and the commission is 27%, can you see that we have to convert that percentage into a decimal? All right, and then we obviously then can apply it a whole lot more easier to find out what was the commission that was earned or the commission that is due. All right, then we discuss markup. Again, a concept that we are familiar with, okay? I just like to read this definition though, all right? It says, the term markup refers to, for example, the additional percentage amount that a shopkeeper adds to the wholesale price of a product in order to cover his expenses and to make a profit. Okay, that's the whole reason why we have been playing around with markup, not only in accounting, but why we're also seeing it here. Now again here, they're focusing on markup solely based on the wholesale price, okay? In other words, on cost, okay? Because the wholesale price is what we, the retailer, are obviously paying whoever we bought this stuff from. So we know that, trying to think of the wholesalers that we know of. There's this one in, where is this? Where you have Nike, and you have Adidas, and you have Puma. They've got their shop outlets. Woodmead. So those are wholesalers, and then obviously we, assuming we're a retailer, we calculate markup based on the cost, which is the wholesale price, right? But again, we know in accounting sometimes we might actually calculate markup on selling price, all right? So just be aware of that. But here you can see that they're going solely on wholesale price, okay? Right. So these calculations shouldn't be, this is actually should be easier for you because it's straightforward. It's always on wholesale price here, okay? But again, you're playing around with percentage here. So here it will actually be easier because all they will tell you is they'll give you 2 out of 3, all right? And then you will have to calculate the missing, all right? Here they say students may also be asked to determine the markup percentage, right? Or the original wholesale given the values of the other 2 factors. Remember, we'll give you just enough to make sure that you can calculate whatever we ask, okay? So you must know this thing inside out because we might ask you to calculate the selling price, all right, after having calculated the markup, or we can ask you to calculate the original cost, or we can ask you to calculate the markup percentage that was used to arrive at this selling price with an original cost price of so much. Does that make sense? Okay? So you just need to be comfortable with those calculations. But with all the work that we've done on proportion, that shouldn't be too much of a problem for you because it's always a question of what do I want? What do I have? Okay? Times what do I have random amount? Okay? Right, and then you're home and dry. Now we have markdown and discount. Okay? Markdown is the opposite of markup. A markdown is a reduction in the original price to a new and lower sales price, okay? Such reduction not having been influenced by a method of payment or volume purchased. Okay, don't know what that second bit is really about, but the whole point is that with a markdown, you're actually reducing the selling price to a new selling price. Maybe it might be to encourage people to buy more stock, etc, etc. Again, you're playing around with percentages. This time we have the original selling price, all right? All right? Then we're saying, okay, how much do we want to reduce it by? Okay, what percentage do we want to reduce it by? We deduct that and we get our new selling price, okay? All right. All right. Again, as long as you're comfortable with your percentages, understanding where you're moving from to where you're trying to get to, you should be good. And this is just now a practical example, okay, of such a scenario. All right, the original price of a good is 875. Price down by 27%. In a sale, what is the sale price? Okay, and there you go. So there we say 27% of the 875. We deduct that from the initial 875, and then we arrive at 638. All right, 75 cents. Is there a question there? Okay. All right. Cool. As with markdown, students may also be asked to determine the markdown or the discount percentage or the original price settlement amount given the values of each of the other 2. Same thing. We can ask you any of these values. You must be comfortable with calculating and providing those to us. Okay, then the last thing that they talk about in this unit is calculating interest. Okay, now interest is basically the cost of borrowing money or the reward. I love this because most textbooks don't actually include this bit. Or the reward obtained from lending money, okay, is referred to as interest. Usually they just talk about it's the cost of borrowing. Even in finance, they talk about the cost of borrowing. They don't usually talk about the reward. Because you could be on either side of this transaction. You could be the one borrowing the money, or you could be the one lending the money. Does that make sense? So if you're the one giving out the money, all right, it's your interest is your reward for having actually given the money. Does that make sense? And if you're the one borrowing, then interest is the penalty or the price you pay for having actually borrowed the money. Right. The borrower repays the lender the amount borrowed plus an additional amount. That additional amount, rand value, is your interest. Okay. Okay, I don't need to go into that. Pretty straightforward. I think we're all happy so far in terms of what interest is. Okay. Now, the only thing that we need to be aware of here is that you have two types of interest. You have compound interest, and then you have simple interest. Simple interest is calculated on an annual basis. So we'll say 10% per annum, okay? And that's the one that we've been playing around with for the most part. Yeah, that's the one we've been playing around with in some of your accounting questions. Some of your accounting questions, all right? And then compound interest, this is now where we based on the term, how long you have had it for, it compounds on itself, So the balance that is owed for a longer period, the more you're actually going to end up interest, okay? Because we're not saying 10% of 100,000, we're saying 10% of 100,000 for the balance on the 100,000 that you borrowed after month one, after month two, so whatever amount that is due, we're calculating based on that. Not just a once-off with simple interest, where we calculate once to say, okay, you're going to pay us 10,000, but since we say 10% off 100,000, that's all you're going to pay in interest. So be very careful to find out these things whenever you take or have a financial commitment that you're about to commit to. Make sure that you know what type of interest that you guys are obviously getting yourself involved with. What's the interest rate? How has it been calculated? What's the term, the period, all right? And then here we just have our formula. So PV is the present value. What is the present value of the loan, all right? Right now. FV is the future value. What is the value of this a year from now, okay? Future value is obviously going to be greater than present value, okay? Because present value is the amount that the principal that you borrow. And then when you apply the interest rate, for instance, we use the example of 100,000, all right, at 10%. I is interest, N is the period, okay? The period is 1 year, okay? And then here we just say plus 1, okay? So this is 100,000. At 10%, we're going to end up at 100,000. Okay. So can you see how? At 10%, we're going to end up at 110,000. Okay. Can you see how future value is greater than the present value? Okay. Right. And then you must be able to manipulate that formula to speak to whatever you want to calculate. So for instance, if you want to calculate present value, you must be able to manipulate the formula. If you want to calculate interest, must be able to manipulate the formula, and if you want to calculate the period, the number of periods or the period.
So the period would be if it's less, so it's 12 months, so it's 12 periods.
It depends. If they say the interest rate is a monthly interest rate, then yes, it would be 12 periods. If they say it's one period, then it would be for one period for the term of a year, then it would be one.
So then at the end of the year, you only pay it back.
Exactly. Monthly periods, all right, for the term of a year, then you know that it's 12 months. So every month I need to make a payment towards it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for this, you guys won't see too much of that. I think here they'll only probably ask us to do simple. Actually ask you in third year finance, okay? And then here they're just going and giving practical examples and asking you to calculate the future value. But otherwise, that is it. That is your unit 7, okay? So again, we have finished yet another module. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll be even more happy after next week. I'm sure.
So I went to go ask that Tandi isn't here.
Oh, she isn't? Oh, I see. I thought I saw her, but at least now you have the contact, so even